Welcome to the latest episode of our podcast series for financial advisors. Today's episode is Entrepreneur, Advisor, and Conductor, Orchestrating Success After Edward Jones. It's a conversation with Ryan Guth, the founder of Goldfin Group. I'm Jason Diamond, and this is the Diamond Podcast for Financial Advisors.
At Diamond Consultants, we help elite advisors identify the right environment for their businesses to thrive, whether that's at a wirehouse, boutique, or independent firm. With nearly 3 decades of experience, we've guided thousands of advisors and represented more than $250 billion in assets transitioned. And each year, 1 in 4 advisors managing $1 billion or more who change firms are our clients. Our process is education-driven and based on building relationships, starting as your strategic partner well before you're even thinking of a move. To schedule a confidential conversation, call us at 908-879-1002. Wondering why advisors change firms and where they're headed? Are transition deals going up or down? Those very questions and more inspired us to create our annual Advisor Transition Report. It's the award-winning, data-driven resource designed for advisors that connects the dots between the motivations around movement and the firm's appetite for top talent. Arm yourself with the knowledge you need to make smart decisions. Download your copy at diamond-consultants.com/transition report.
Most advisors don't set out looking for change. In fact, the opposite is usually true. They build within a system, take advantage of the opportunities in front of them, and grow something meaningful over time. And for a while, that alignment works. But over time, priorities evolve. What once felt like the right environment can start to feel limiting, whether it's how you serve clients, how you present yourself in the market, or how much control you really have over the direction of your business. And that's where things begin to shift. In this episode, I sit down with Ryan Guth, founder of Goldfin Group, to talk through that evolution in a very real and practical way. Ryan started his career at Edward Jones, an experience he still speaks very highly of, but ultimately made the decision to go independent to build a business that better reflected how he wanted to serve his entrepreneurial clients and express his own entrepreneurial instincts. What makes Ryan's perspective especially interesting is his background. Before wealth management, he was a music conductor. And that lens carries through into how he thinks about the advisor's role today, not as someone focused on products or portfolios, but as the person coordinating all the moving parts of a client's financial life. We spend time unpacking what actually drove his decision to leave Edward Jones, including the desire for more freedom in how he markets and differentiates himself, and the broader idea of aligning his business with the same entrepreneurial mindset as the clients he serves. We also get into something many advisors think about, but don't always have firsthand experience with: the impact of an acquisition. Ryan initially affiliated with broker-dealer Atria, which was later acquired by LPL, and he shares what that transition looked like from the inside, both operationally and strategically. It's a thoughtful conversation about independence, but more importantly, it's about what it really means to build a business that fits your clients, your strengths, and your long-term vision. So let's get into it. Ryan, thrilled to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Jason, thank you. And I'm sorry it took so long.
No, it's the perfect time. Why don't you start with walking us through your background? What brought you to the world of wealth management? Give us a little bit of context on the business today.
Sure. I like to say the Lord has a sense of humor. So I actually started out in my career as a conductor. I was a choral conductor. So teaching singers in middle school career as an educator there, and moved into entrepreneurship because I realized that the public school system was not going to do for me what I needed it to do for me financially. And I just actually really wanted a Hyundai Santa Fe. I wanted to be able to afford a car payment for a new car. And so I started a small community music school, and that grew into my side hustle. And that grew it was really my main hustle after a period of years. And I sold that business and left public education, still a conductor, was doing some professional conducting and contracting. And then I went into podcasting, music ed podcasting in 2015. And I had a friend who reached out to me early 2016 and said, "Hey, man, remember me?" And he was a guy that I met in music school. He was a Grammy award-winning conductor who had moved into wealth management. And he said, "I'd like to start a podcast, and I know that you're podcasting." And I was like, "Don't you have some Grammys or something? What are you doing in wealth management?" And he says, "We'll talk about that later, but I needed some help podcasting." Anyway, so I gave him a couple hours of my time, set him up with some stuff, and he sent me a check for $1,000. And I was like, "Wait a second, what do you do?" Because I've never been worth $500 an hour before. So I got intrigued and I asked him a bunch of questions, and he wasn't yet ready to bring on somebody new. But I was in a stage in my life where I was open to something brand new. And I ended up moving from New York City to New Mexico to take another position as a high school choir director. When the honeymoon wore off as a public school teacher, because I was just like, this really is not for me, I decided to start door knocking financial firms. And I literally put my suit on. I drove around Albuquerque, New Mexico, and went to a Ray J office, went to Fidelity. They have a pretty big office in Albuquerque. They said, "You can work in our call center." I said, "That sounds absolutely terrible, but thank you for your time." My wife had a financial advisor at the time. I asked them, they said, "Man, go get your CFP. Come talk to us in 3 years." And I was driving home just dejected. Oh, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. And I saw a sign on Montgomery Boulevard and it said Edward Jones. And I was like, I think that's a financial firm. It sounds like a dead guy, and I'm pretty sure it's a financial firm.
From
So
law
let me
firms,
just,
could have been
it
firm.
could have been, I mean, I could have been totally wrong, but I told my wife, she was my fiance at the time. I said, "Sweetheart, I think I need to just turn into this parking lot." I met this wonderful man named Zane, and I sat with him for about 3 hours, and he told me all about that opportunity. And I was like, I am so in, both feet, let's go. And I had my cover letter in and my resume that night. And within a few months, I was at KYC for Edward Jones.
One of the coolest, I think, stories I've heard. We've been running the show now for a while, and one of the most, I think, unique backgrounds. We've heard it all, but it's such an interesting pivot. And we'll get into more about what I've personally, I think, no secret, you and I've worked together, and I know your passion, it comes through in every single thing that you do. So I want to get into kind of the root of that passion, but my takeaways from your story are twofold. First of all, you're a podcast pro. So this is a little bit unfair. I feel like you've been doing this since before it was cool, 2015, back before podcasting was really in vogue. And second of all, I'm just dying to know if you can still sing before we get into the really
Oh,
important.
for sure. Yeah. No,
All right.
I really do enjoy it. So my background is like opera. So it's really more of I've got a non-microphone voice. I've got that more acoustical, bigger vibrato. Don't sound great singing pop. Sounds a little strange. I love to sing sometimes when I'm asked. I'll sing at church or something like that.
I love
But
it. I love
yeah.
it. I have a face for radio, as they say. So
Yeah.
let's get into more serious matters at hand. I know
Sure.
one of the things you're really passionate about is working with entrepreneurs, business
Yeah.
owners, people who started businesses. Why is that? Why do you feel so near and dear with the entrepreneur audience?
So I think it's a couple things. I'm definitely a free market capitalist, and I ended up in a system out of college that I don't know really appreciates people trying to solve problems the way free market capitalists do. I remember distinctly the school security guard looking at me one day, probably a couple weeks into my first year teaching, and he goes, "You're not going to be here long." And I said, "Why?" He goes, "Because you're going to try to fix everything. And the government doesn't want to be fixed." So I lasted for 9 years, which was pretty incredible. But I love conductors have to fix stuff, right? So if you think about how the parallel of sort of the conductor to the wealth manager, it's the same thing, right? So you can think choir, think symphony, whatever, orchestra, whatever. You are the quarterback. I mean, we use the term quarterback all the time because I live in Tennessee. This is SEC football country.
Football country.
I use quarterback a lot, but the conductor is the same thing. You're constantly coordinating, and you have eventually entrepreneurs have the performance. They have the big exit, right? They have a lot of entrepreneurs do sell at some point. We're not talking Main Street entrepreneurs, we're talking more bigger time entrepreneurs. They do sell eventually. And that's the big game, right? That's the performance. And as a conductor, what you have to be able to do is look at a situation in rehearsal, right? In when you get together with your ensemble and go, these are the things we need to work on. And these are the things that it's okay to set aside for a moment. And these are the things that we don't even need to worry about. This is just a distraction. This is just noise. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to fix every little thing. You're not going to be able to do all of the things you want to do because life gets in the way, because circumstances get in the way. But what can we do from now until the performance, now until the big exit, right? And then for a lot of my clients, the next exit or the next big move. What can we do incrementally over time that we can get done, that we know we're going to get done, that's really going to make a significant impact on that performance?
So
And
is that the role of a financial advisor in your mind, is to be the quarterback or the conductor of their
I think
clients?
so. Yeah, I think so. I think we tend to get really caught up in the complexity and trying to do all the little things, especially if you have more of that analytical brain, that CPA engineer brain where it's like, it's got to be perfect. And sometimes we let certain issues like wag the whole dog.
Yeah.
Whereas I look at it from, I'm cringing even about to say the word holistic because everybody says that word.
Synergies.
Synergy, holistic. I look at it and say, as the conductor, as the quarterback, if I know that chasing this particular thing is a losing battle because my client just does not have the time, or there's the CPA is the wrong butts in the wrong seat or whatever, and we know we have this ever closing window of time to get things done. You have to have somebody that prioritizes for you and manages and follows up and makes sure that it gets done because these are busy people and they're not going to do it on their own. So, and we could talk about it later, but we intentionally keep a very small client list so that I can keep what we're doing super, super high value.
I want to get there. And maybe before we do, if you go on your website, it'll make it seem as if this is Goldfin with or securities offered via LPL. I think that oversimplifies the story. Can you walk us through a little bit about your journey and then just tell me roughly how the business is set up today?
Sure. When I went independent back in 2022, I was Guth Financial. So my last name is Guth, Guth. We were Guth Financial, and it was really set up to serve like legacy retiree clients. And as I really thought about it, I thought, man, who do I really enjoy serving most? I really enjoy serving my entrepreneurial clients the most. And I had these opportunities that were coming to me that were like 40-year-old men married with kids that are building incredible stuff. And I was like, this is really interesting. I need to lean into this. I actually went back to my buddy that brought me the idea of wealth management, who's actually now coincidentally also at LPL. And I said, man, can we work together on some of these things? The planning side is a little bit newer for me. I was already a CFP. I had already spent 5.5 years at Edward Jones, but I needed some more reps on the entrepreneur stuff. So we did some stuff together early on. And I realized, man, if I want to really stand out and differentiate myself, because that was the biggest challenge I was having as a sort of a W-2 advisor, is like really differentiating myself. I'm going to need to brand around exit and liquidity planning, the whole entrepreneurial journey. So in 2024, and it coincided with the launch of this book that I started writing when I was actually at Edward Jones, we rebranded to Goldfin Group. And so that we went through a sort of a naming exercise, all the gold meaning wealth, right? Fin meaning financial, or fin also meaning what propels you forward, right? That sort of thing. Had a really awesome graphic design and branding person to help me with that. It's easier to say than Guth because half of the people that I know call me Guth. So we launched with a legacy retiree thing, and we have a 100% retention rate. And we've learned that as we lean more into this busier, more complex group of people, we do need to graduate or shed clients. And we've been able to use LPL's partial book sale program to actually do that. And by the time this will come out, I've made 3 transfers to that program, probably over $12 or $13 million.
So let's talk then about your independent chapter, if you will, your current chapter. And I'll ask you a couple questions next about, I know we have a large portion of our audience, Edward Jones folks, who will be interested in that experience. But I want to ask now about your current kind of chapter, because I think that's what's most exciting. One of the things I know you had said to me when we first started talking was you're a guy who didn't want to be limited. You didn't want to be constrained. You obviously are passionate. You like your freedom, your autonomy, and you want to do things the way you feel is right for your clients. Do you feel like independence has lived up to that promise? Are you able to serve clients better and more, to use the word that you cringe at, holistically?
Absolutely. I think the biggest differentiator for me, because I just don't want to be the wealth guy with the commission breath or with the attitude of assets are like we're playing hungry, hungry hippos. We're always trying to scoop up assets. I don't want to be that guy. And the ability to differentiate yourself and turn your value proposition right into your own value proposition, not the firm's value proposition. Now, don't get me wrong. I had a fantastic experience at my previous firm, and I would recommend my previous firm to many people. But I think if you have that entrepreneurial streak and you're willing to take the risk and you're willing to hold yourself accountable to really differentiating yourself, don't just leave and be silver leaf, pick a color, pick an organic material, wealth management that just does all the boring stuff that everybody else does. Like, what are you doing that's making yourself different? And I think the challenge for me was, how do I market myself differently? That was exciting to me.
I think people worry about that, especially, by the way, in like smaller towns. Let's say I've heard this from a lot of ex-Jones advisors, frankly, too, of what do you do to differentiate yourself? What do you lean into as kind of your value prop?
I think it's time and attention. And everybody says, I care more than most people, right? Everybody says that. What's different here is that one, I'm living the entrepreneurial journey. Actually, one, I've lived it. I've sold a company before. Two, I'm living it now. I'm not a W-2 serving business owners, right? Every financial advisor says I serve business owners. Why do they say it? Because they're rich. You have the biggest shot at the most AUM in the shortest amount of time when you work. I mean, that's why the SEPA designation is so popular. It's because the certified exit planning advisor, right? Because you have the biggest shot at the biggest amount of AUM in one fell swoop. But if you want credibility with a CEO, you should be a CEO. That could be a hot take, maybe, but it certainly works for me when you're conversing with another person who's in a similar position to you. You bond over your shared struggle. And I think one of the struggles that a CEO has, especially, and we say we work with clients in the $7 to $70 million range, enterprise value. Those $7 to $70 million enterprise value CEOs don't have anybody to confide in. Like, their wife has heard it. They don't want to hear it. My avatar is a male. There's plenty of amazing entrepreneurs who serve female, specifically female. I tend to serve an avatar that is male. So if you hear me say he and his wife,
Understood.
that's just generally my avatar. I'm thinking of that bio when I'm speaking.
Yep.
But they don't have somebody that gives them objective advice. And I will give you advice that you don't even want to hear. I'm not going to blow smoke. I'm from the Northeast. I'm from Philadelphia. I'm not going to blow smoke. So what I think is really important is being somebody that you're not trying to impress them. You're not one of their employees. These people can't even really talk to their C-level executive team about their plan to sell. They need somebody else. And they can't have somebody that has 300 households. Sorry. And that works 9 to 5. I take phone calls from some of my biggest, most ambitious clients at 10 p.m. Why? Because that's when they can talk. So the access and the ability to look at things differently, like you can't look at what's always going to give you like the highest quote ROI financially. It's also what's going to give you the highest ROI like in your life. What gives you the least brain damage trying to actually like execute this plan? We're not going to use every 4-letter trust. Well, is that even possible for him to get that done in the period of time that we have? We're in deal mode. Let's go.
A couple things there. First of all, I'll sometimes tell clients, you started your comments, I think were right, where you're like, everybody says we care the most, right? So by definition, it may sound counterintuitive. That's a unique value prop, right? It's right in the word unique value. But I think what you're saying is, and the way I sum that up is, if your unique value prop is going to be service, for example, then you had better be so freaking good at service that your clients know that's what they're coming. And that's, it sounds like what you're pitching your clients on is, I am your quarterback. I am your therapist in a lot of ways, it sounds like. And I'm there for you basically 24 hours. And I know from working with you, that's the case for you. I think of it similarly when people are like, our unique differentiator is technology. Like, fine, but your tech had better be so good and so far superior to anything else on the street for that to be the case. The other thing I'll say, don't think it's such a hot take or as much of a hot take as you think it is, that the idea that independent advisors feel more kinship and feel closer with business owner clients. We hear the inverse of that a lot, which is advisors who break away from a captive firm like Jones, like a wirehouse, whatever, and then go independent. They hear from their clients, like, I get it, right? The clients themselves understand it because they've, to your point, they've lived through this journey. So I just wanted to draw that parallel. Did that resonate with you in your journey?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I would say I've probably got almost every entrepreneurial household that I have in my business had some type of breakaway moment in their
Right.
career.
Parallel in their industry, whatever the,
Yeah.
yeah.
For sure. There was one day they were sitting down to dinner on date night with their wife or having breakfast and going, sweetheart, I think I got to go. I think I got to do this.
I got to quit my job at an employee firm that offers me health insurance and benefits and take a leap and take a bet on myself.
Yeah, it's a great move. And the people that you do business with respect it because they've been there.
What about the negative side, which is like the old adage of like the victors get to write history? I think about that a little bit with entrepreneurs too, is like they tell you about, first of all, you typically only hear from the real success stories, but also you hear a little bit of a revisionist take. So I'm curious, with some benefit of being close to this still, you still think there's an area where you fall short, where you're like, I cannot deliver on something that I thought I was going to be able to, or I am lacking a resource, or there's something that I'm missing as my current setup? Just if you could be self-critical for a moment.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. I mean, so I'm a promoter by personality type. I forget. There's like the culture index, which is one of those Myers-Briggs type. I'm a
Sure.
promoter, right? I'm an Enneagram 7, which is an enthusiast, right? I'm whatever. I'm probably more the marketing guy, right? People trust me for whatever reason. That's the feedback I've gotten when I appear on video. They're like, man, I don't know what it is. I just feel like I can trust you. So you can trust me. But I think where I fall short would be like, I am a CFP, but I'm not a nerd. I'm definitely not a nerd. And I don't love going back to the textbook. I don't love learning
Yeah.
about the new legislation. I do it because I have to. So I think where I would really need help in my business is another nerd. However, and LPL is not paying me to say this, but there's already an infrastructure in place for me to bring on a fractional CFP that I don't have to pay I don't have to put on my W-2 payroll, that I can pay LPL and they can actually do 5 hours, 10 hours a month.
Yeah. You know what? Even keeping LPL out of it, that's what I was getting at. The idea that, so you're not a nerd, to use your term. You're not the guy sitting there in Excel 40 hours a day crunching numbers, right? It doesn't matter so much anymore because there are so many ways to outsource or hand off or partner with firms or people or hire, to your point, that typically you can solve for a lot of your shortcomings, or not even shortcomings, but things that, like, to me, that's the way I think about independence today is you get to do the things that you want to do. And there's probably a firm out there that can take off of your plate the rest.
Yeah, I mean, you can't just think everybody, no matter in any career, right? You're always going to have to eat a poo burger, right? You're always going to eat a poo burger, but you, at least in independence, you can pick the flavor. You know what I mean? I know that's gross, but what I'm saying is that
I don't know if that's making the cover of the magazine, but I appreciate it. Yeah.
you get to cater to whatever your strengths are. I guess that's what it is. In independence, you don't have to be it all, and you have the independence to choose the route that you want to go down and supplement your weaknesses with others that will do a better job.
I think that's the key. Is you're doing it either because others will do a better job, or because even if you think you're the best at everything, it frees you up to have capacity to do what you're truly the best at, which is pretty common feedback. Let's talk about Jones for a minute. And you've said to me from the first time we ever spoke, nothing but positive things about Jones.
Oh, yeah.
But first of all, in terms of grateful to the firm where they basically taught you the business and helped you to build the book of business. But at some point, it happens to a lot of advisors at any firm, not just Jones, that there's a moment where you're like, either I've outgrown this or there's something I want to do that I'm limited in. What was that thing for you? If you can remember back, what was it where you're like, I want to do this and I'm feeling in some way like I just need a different mousetrap to be able to do it? Or I'll give you another, maybe this is leading the witness. Was it just about owning an enterprise and you felt like you just had to be independent?
No, I was very content. I was very content at Jones. I mean, disclaimer, I've actually probably recruited more people for Jones in the past 3.5 years since I've been independent than I did in the 5.5 years I was at Jones. Like when somebody comes to me and says, I'd like to start a career in this industry, I go to Edward Jones. There is no better place to be a W-2 employee than Edward Jones. There's not. It's the greatest training. It's wonderful people. But if you're somebody that is entrepreneurial and you want to fix everything, it's the difference between steering a speedboat and steering a tanker. It's going to take a very long time to turn a tanker. And I was staring down my career and saying, man, I could have been a GP at Jones. I really think I could have. I think I was probably in line for regional leader at some point and all the stuff. But then I was looking at, okay, who do I want to really dictate my schedule? I want me to dictate my schedule. So really it's the freedom piece. Another thing, was I really wanted to be able to differentiate my marketing. The only ability I had at Jones, if I remember correctly, was my headshot and my custom biography on my website. My cards look the same. Not that cards really matter anymore, but my business cards look the same. My website looked the same. Like my name was the same.
That was the first thing you said to me. My background is podcasting. You are so expressive, and I think it's part of your gift. And it's a very common one, by the way. It's probably the most common one is freedom of marketing. As far as the ultimate, I don't think that's the be all end all. I think that's the straw that breaks the camel's back for a lot of people, where they're just like, COVID, this was very popular too. It's like, I want to send a communication around COVID. And by the time the firm approves it, it's stale, right? You can't take 2 weeks to approve something in the middle of a crisis like that. So
Yeah, it was like when you sign up for the social media thing and you get like here's the pre-approved post that every other person
right,
in the firm.
LinkedIn, and they're useless because everybody's posting them, and
I mean, and nobody like engages with it because people know what it
they
is.
look like canned posts. Right.
Yeah, and but I get it. I also
Me
get it.
too. I'm the biggest defender of that, by the way, because the reality is, like, first of all, compliance is there to protect you. I know I've said that to you before.
For sure.
Second of all, if you are a firm that has 20,000, 25,000, 30,000 financial advisors, by definition, this is how you have to operate compliance. And it speaks to what you're speaking to, which is you can be the best firm in the world, but some advisors, you just outgrow the business model. And I think that happens especially so for advisors like you who have such an entrepreneurial spirit kind of in your DNA.
Yeah, I mean, it's just eventually you just, hey, I think it'd be a unique challenge. If you're that kind of person that seeks out, you're growth oriented, you're always seeking out a new challenge, and money is important, but money is also like points. Like I think Warren Buffett said it like in one of his, HBO.
It's how he keeps score.
He keeps score. It's not his identity. It's how we keep score. And I think for me, it was a new challenge, and it was an interesting challenge. But man, I have so many good friends still back at my previous firm and that are just crushing it. People that I trained that are level 10s and all that. And I'm getting to celebrate for them.
It's great. That's how you want it. You don't want acrimony. It's the best possible scenario. And I know, like, to your point, you still continue to be one of their biggest champions, which is rare, and it's a nice thing.
They changed my life in amazing ways, and I appreciate them so much.
Hard stop. And that's, I think, ultimately the takeaway. I want to talk now. One of the wrinkles in your story, I think one of the interesting wrinkles in your story was you ultimately opted to affiliate originally with a broker dealer that has since been acquired. So you lived through what a lot of advisors, I think, fear, which is I affiliate with a private equity backed firm. That firm gets bought. In your case, it was an Atria broker dealer that gets bought by LPL. Talk a little bit about that experience.
It was interesting because they were just actually it's where my buddy was. He was like, hey, why don't you look at these guys? They're small. They maybe have, I want to say like they have 100 practices under them, and not Atria, but this particular little
the broker dealer under
Atria maybe had 100 teams under them. And they weren't huge on like recruiting. That wasn't like their thing. Their thing was they became more incentivized to recruit when the private equity firm that backed them gave them money to do a little bit of recruiting. But yeah, I did it initially because my friend was there. He says, these are great people. I would have had bigger transition assistance and all these things. But I reached out to these guys through you guys, and I'm really glad that I had. But I mean, Jason set me up with all of the people I should talk to. And I talked to probably maybe six or so different firms. And at the end of the day, I said, "Hey, Jason, can we look at these guys?" And Jason was my guy at that time. I feel like I was too small for Jason, but somehow I got
Come on
Jason.
now.
But at the end of the day, it was a good fit because they were going to let me write a book, which is what I wanted to do. They weren't going to give me a hard time. They said, "Hey, if you want a podcast, we'll work with you." It was actually interesting because they were so small that the decision maker was somebody that I could literally get in front of.
That's the reason why you choose the Atria affiliated broker dealer 4 years ago, whatever it was, 5 years ago. Tell us then now, last year or 2 years ago now, the LPL Atria acquisition gets announced. How did you react and what was the impact on you since?
Initially, we chose to custody with Charles Schwab. Almost everybody at the Atria level custodied with National Financial Services, with Fidelity. And they said, "Hey, Ryan, sorry to break it to you, but you're literally going to have to repaper all of your
The
accounts."
nightmare scenario, basically.
And now it's different. It's different this time around because you have a CRM full of your client's information and you can pre-fill a lot of the paperwork and
No
things like
risk
that.
of getting terminated or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously there are rules around moving away from a W-2 and obviously protecting the covenants and things that you swore to when you joined initially another firm. When you go independent to independent, there's a lot more prep work you can do.
I totally agree.
And so basically the recruiter from LPL called me and said, "You're a free agent, Ryan. This is not going to be easy for you to repaper. We're going to give you, though, a great team. We're going to actually have you, if you want to go with us." He said, "Feel free to take other appointments." And I did take other appointments. He said, "But if you do choose to come with us, we'd actually like you to move ahead of the rest of the Atria group. So that way you're going to get our team at less busy time."
Yeah, the A transition team.
Which was great.
Yeah, I think that's a thoughtful approach.
And we got paid again.
Well, they basically treated it like a secondary transition. And that's something that's lost in the shuffle with everyone focuses on the negative of the hassle factor of the acquisition, and it's valid. A lot of times there is some retention money tied to that, which it sounds like is what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, they offered us essentially the same deal I got the first time to stick around. And that wasn't their first offer, but I was really pushy and they said, "Got to phone it up the chain, whatever." And I ended up working. I said, "Guys, this is this is a terrible inconvenience. I just did this. Like, I need to keep my assistant happy." Like, she's
By the way,
going to be
completely
doing
valid, like completely true.
So,
Yep.
But yeah, we ended up doing that. And I'm glad we did. I think initially I was like, LPL, I took a meeting with them and man, they're big, but they are doing so much to, again, not being paid by LPL. They are doing so much to make lives easier. Partial book sale program is amazing. Done it 3 times. If you don't know what the partial book sale program is, you can get 1, 2.5, or 3 times your trailing 12 revenue by transferring a client account one way to LPL, and there's no clawback. If that client says, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to go to my buddy down the street," LPL doesn't come back to you and
They're
say,
wearing the risk, right?
they take the risk. And I'm like, whoa, that's incredible. Sort of the fractional outsourced, what do you call, paraplanner program. They actually have now 12 investment banks that they're working with for deals with $1 million of EBITDA or more, for business owners with $1 million of EBITDA or more. They will actually split their success fee with the advisor.
Wow. It's an interesting, what you're talking about, I think, is they'll get some flack for their size, which is typically in the form of people complain. Sometimes they think about service levels. But what you're alluding to is all the tremendous benefits that come with the scale. They have more, especially post Atria, and then they followed it up with the Commonwealth acquisition, obviously, a year later. The scale they have in the space is second to none. Not to make this an advertisement.
They're going to own your BD eventually anyway, so you might as well just go.
You know what? It's a funny joke, and there's something to be said about LPL's been so acquisitive lately. But to me, the beauty of the independent space is it's not just BDs, right? Then there's plenty of advisors who say, but that speaks to me wanting to be more in the RIA space, or me wanting to be affiliated with some sort of platform that's more multi-custody. Like, there's so many different flavors of independence now. And I think that's the beauty of it, is as your business grows and evolves, to your point, you're not limited anymore and the world is your oyster, right? Like now it's you dream it, you can do it.
And here's a big thing that I do want to point out. I said BD, but I'm just saying it as a generic term. I am 100% fee-based, 100% discretionary. And that was one of the big things about the initial Atria transition that was a deal breaker for me is, can I be 100% discretionary? That was another piece that really made me want to think about moving from Jones. My goal at Jones was I want a small, high value book of business. They had Edward Jones connections. They had the Goodnight program and things like that. They have these programs so you can graduate clients. But discretion was a huge piece. My clients do not care about their portfolio, like what's in their portfolio. They just trust me to do it. And even back at Jones, I'd be like, hey, I'm calling you because you have an RMD and I'm going to sell XY mutual fund. And they're like, I don't care, Ryan. Why are you calling me? And it's because I have to call you. It's why I have to confirm. That kind of thing is an efficiency piece. Like I do not want to be bothering an already busy person. And busy people are delegators.
Right, unless they want to be bothered. Like some clients want to be checked for, and that's fine. That's their
Some
prerogative.
people are like really all about the investments. I would tell you that my conversations about investments are 5% of my conversations with my clients.
It's interesting. I actually find myself telling my friends that a lot. Like if they ask me about financial advisors, and I like, if what you're looking for is alpha or what you're looking for is outsized gains, it's probably not the model for you. Like I agree with you. That's not how I think of it as 1A, 1B, 2, 3, or 4 on the list of a financial advisor's function.
Yeah, I mean, it was always products, price, and performance. You can't compete on those things.
Yeah.
I will give you all of my tickers. I will give you my models. You
Go
go ahead.
trade them if that's what you want to do.
Go ahead. You can buy all that stuff. I'm not some investment wizard who has figured but it's the care you put into all of the other stuff. It's what kind of calories do we want to burn thinking about this or this? It's prioritizing for the client. It's taking things off their plate. It's being more of the concierge model that I think is really the value. It's not like it's not the investments. But LPL, and they all have them all. I mean, Charles Schwab, I had access to whatever I wanted to have access to, generally speaking.
It's mostly table stakes. I agree with that. We got time for maybe one or two more. Maybe I'll give you a two-parter here.
Go ahead.
What's the next chapter from a business perspective? Is it acquisitions? Is it hiring other people? And then part and parcel to that, let's say 10 years from now, what's your goal? Because to me, most advisors would answer that with something about growth. But I would think for you, you have to think about growth very strategically, given the fact that your business prop, your value prop is small and nimble. So
yeah, if I bring on one client a quarter, I'm a happy boy. And maybe to my detriment, quality over quantity, right? I mean, we have, just from a metric standpoint, I left my previous firm knocking on level 9, which was like 800K in trailing 12 revenue. That was in 2022, and like 168 households or something like that. I have 36 households now, and we have grown.
that's serious shrink to grow.
Yeah, serious shrink to grow. And so I would tell you that, like, to be totally vulnerable, I'm lonely. I would really like to be able to teach what I do to a team. I see this being like, Ryan can handle 50 households. I mean, we were nearly 50 and I sold a bunch because I do believe that the new client fairy comes and taps you on the head. If you get rid of clients that are not a great fit for you, the new client fairy comes and like drops off better clients.
Interesting. Client karma. Okay.
I truly believe that. I think it's universal across industries. I think it gives you self-esteem. It boosts your self-esteem to go, I don't need that.
Yeah, there's definitely power in no. I totally agree with that.
And then you have this new gravity.
That's the equivalent of like when you go out saying, I'm not trying to find a date. And then of course, like I'm done. I'm single for a while now. And then that night, like you meet your wife.
The posture of, I don't need this woman to complete me. And then she's like, I want to complete you. I'm like, great. Okay. Happy to be completed. But yeah, I would say that I would like to build out a team and teach what I do to other advisors. And we do what are called proactive planning sessions, where we do semi-annual meetings. We batch them all very close, very tightly. I fly out to Albuquerque because I actually still have an office there. I live in Middle Tennessee, but I have an office here and in Albuquerque. So I'll fly out there for a few days, but then I'll do the rest of my meetings virtual with inside of a week and a half. And I do that twice a year, sort of April and November. Otherwise, we're just doing things as things come up and also marketing and so forth. But I would love to have pods of great, when I get to 50, I want to be able to maybe shave it down to 35 and seed somebody else with 15 clients that they can work with. I really want to impart this and build out little pods. So if anybody's listening and they're interested, heck, I mean, I'm thrilled to talk to people about this journey.
Oh, you are. I actually know this about you, that you're very gracious with your time with current Jones advisors, ex-Jones advisors. Really, it doesn't have to be anybody who's even touched Jones, just anybody who's curious about the industry. You've been a tremendous resource. So I appreciate that. Any other words of wisdom you'd share with our audience or anything else you want to leave behind?
Follow the rules. I mean, your word is everything. When you're looking at going independent, you have to think, am I willing to take this risk? Because I'm sure the Diamonds want they want success stories. They want people to come back on this podcast. If you have even an inkling that maybe this is a good idea, I think you should explore it, because there probably is something in the back of your mind going, shoot, man, there is some potential. Yeah, I know I've got some potential. So I think you should absolutely explore going independent. Maybe explore whether you think you're going to go independent or not, because you just don't know until you take a few meetings, see what it's all about. We need employees too. And even if you want to go independent into employment, where you go, man, I've got a good thing going here, but man, I don't know if I want to be the boss, but I would love to work alongside somebody else. I mean, that's somebody I'd like to talk to. I mean, I have no interest in being a CEO, but I think I'd really enjoy this independence thing because I could really be a great part of a team. Again, that's also valid. You don't have to be the main risk taker to talk to a Jason. You could be somebody who's, man, I know I'm a valuable part of this team, but maybe I'd like some more flexibility around how I administrate my life, or I just need to make sure that role is more in alignment with what I'm really hoping to do for my family and all that sort of stuff too.
I actually think that's a really nice place to end, because it's not a sales pitch for movement. We say often, think about how quickly and how much the world has changed even 2, 4, 6 years ago. So advisors, because of how valuable their businesses are, you should take a look around, even if just to get educated on what the landscape looks like, whether that's independent, something in the middle like what you're describing, or even W-2 options, because there are so many new and exciting flavors, modes. Again, you may very well decide through that exercise, my current firm is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I think there's real power in that too, because you can double down and recommit. So I appreciate you sharing that. I think it's great advice.
I appreciate the independence that Diamond provides, right? You're not a captive recruiter where you have to this is the only solution. I think, and we do this with our own property and casualty insurance and our mortgage banker, right? They're always independent because I want them to see all of the different options that are out there. And so I appreciate that about you guys, which is the reason why I even wanted to talk to y'all in the first place, because I knew you weren't going to steer me straight to one place, that you were going to tell me straight and give me some real advice and real guidance. So I really appreciate that about you guys.
Always going to be honest and shoot straight. Ryan, this was a blast. Thank you so much for joining me, and excited to have you back on again in a couple of years.
I'm humbled. Thank you so much.
As a financial advisor, you hold yourself to the highest standards of integrity, honesty, and credibility. You are successful because you take your professional responsibilities seriously and are dedicated to your clients. But are you living your best business life? Are your goals aligned with your firm's, or could a better option exist? Should I Stay or Should I Go is a book written with you in mind. It's a self-guided journey that walks you through the key steps that we take with our advisor clients. This strategic thought process and roadmap to professional self-discovery is designed to help you ask the right questions and think critically and objectively, whether you're considering change or not. Learn how to get your copy at diamond-consultants.com/thebook.